What's up everyone? In this video we're going to look over Nano Dimension, some recent news. We're going to check out the SEC filings and the chart, and we're also going to go over this recent news about the share buyback plan. So we're going to look over that press release that recently came out, and let's start this video off. And I will leave this down below for you in the description along with some stocks and cryptos, so check it out. But essentially Nano Dimension says that they resume their share repurchase plan immediately, and that the court's consent, the Israeli court, allowed the company to continue executing their buyback program. Now it does say here some interesting wording here. It says it initially was approved by the Israeli court in August 2022 until October 12, 2023. However, it doesn't say anywhere a new timeline. So I don't know if the timeline is up until October 12 or if it was actually extended to a later date. Now, Yoav Stern, the CEO of Nano Dimension, did give a statement on this press release, and he says, "We continue to fulfill our previous promise to investors, which was temporarily held back due to the time expiration of the Israeli court approval. We thank the court again for its flexibility in extending the repurchase plan period. We are happy to act in a way that both improves the company's balance sheet and benefits its shareholders." So it seems by the way he worded it, they do have more time than October 12. But like I said, I'd really like to know the cutoff date for this. Maybe we'll see it in a future press release. Now, despite today being a bit of a red day, we just got our Fed meeting yesterday. The Fed is going to pause, but they sounded a bit hawkish in that, they said that additional hikes may be needed. The same old thing that they've been saying this whole time. We are dead set on our inflation coming down under 2%, and we need ongoing data to prove if we have done sufficient rate hikes or if we're going to be able to pause in the near future. So we did see a bit of a green day on the Fed meeting date. We're seeing a red day, a pullback a day today. That seems to be the trend lately with these Fed meetings. But despite today, Nano Dimension has been recently running on this news of the share buyback program. And I did want to go into the SEC filings and see what's going on there. Are they actually purchasing shares yet? What's going on? Now here's their page that shows all of their recent SEC filings. And what do you see? Mostly these 6Ks. And I'll go into one really quickly just to show you what these are. These are essentially notifications given to the SEC saying that they're putting out certain press releases. So these Form 6s really don't give us a whole lot of anything. You can definitely look through them yourself. I'd say they're somewhat irrelevant. They're just basically letting the SEC know that in these press releases, they are putting out all important statements that they need to put out. And they're basically saying that their press releases are coming in line with all of the SEC's requirements. Now, I did want to show you something else here. This is a Form 144. Typically they're called Form 4s, but maybe because this is an ADR or ADS, those words are interchangeable. It's an American Depository Receipt. So perhaps the SEC filing categories are slightly different, but looking at this Form 144 here, you'll see that this is actually a executive or an officer that is selling shares, and they're selling 25,000 shares, which gives them a value of $74,000, and it seems like they have 100,000 shares total based on this here. So they're selling 1/4 of their shares. Keep in mind that these are RSUs or restrictive stock units, and they are essentially milestone based stocks. They're stock based compensation based on certain incentives that the executives meet. And this was the senior vice president selling these shares. Now, one thing to realize is every year these executives get paid out in stock-based compensation. That is a normal thing for companies traded on the stock market. So I'm not too alarmed by this. We don't see more selling across all of the executives. It is simply this one executive. Maybe he needs some money for something or wants some money for something. And you do need to realize we are coming towards the end of the year, and they will have a new yearly stock-based compensation plan, giving them more RSUs or restricted stock units. So this doesn't come as too alarming to me. It would definitely be a red flag if we saw more executive selling across the board. So I will leave you their SEC filings page down below. Keep an eye on it, and you'll see when they actually do repurchase the shares. Any purchase they make should be on the SEC filings, but it does seem so far we haven't seen Nano Dimension purchase any shares yet. But I do suspect we will see that very soon. I mean, let's face it, it was very recently that they were approved to buy shares, and there could always be a delay with them putting out all the necessary paperwork and doing their due diligence, how many shares they want to buy, things of that nature. So be patient, keep an eye on the SEC filings. We should see Nano Dimension buying shares very soon, but they haven't yet as of this update. But next up, let's talk about the chart here. We definitely have some patterns to watch, and I want to give you a couple of other points. So here's Nano Dimension on the chart. We have been creating higher lows and we have been slowly creating higher highs. And this seems to have bottomed out back in 2022, nearly a whole year ago, back in December. And it's basically just been following this ascending channel. One thing that I think is going on here is we are in a stage 1. And let me show you what that is. Stage 1 indicates a bottom. Now that said, some huge negative news could come out. Some more fear with the Fed could come out. This could start creating new recent lows, but to me this does seem like a stage 1. The first stage starts at the end of a downtrend. We just recently saw a huge downtrend over most of 2021 into 2022, but the first stage starts at the end of downtrend when a company enters the base building process. These bottoms can be simple or complex, but they have one thing in common: new shareholders replace the old guard, in turn replacing fear with hope that will eventually turn into greed. Buying early in this construction doesn't work well because crowd replacement dynamics can trigger complex testing and new lows before support is established. An accumulation tends to speed up near the end of the pattern, triggering a set of higher than average volume spikes that show enthusiastic buying interest. On balance, volume or OBV and other accumulation distribution tools bottom out with price and turn higher, reflecting the newly bullish technical outlook. Watch closely when these indicators show greater upside than price action within the base, because this can signal an impending breakout that sets off stage 2. I would argue that we are in fact in a stage 1. That said, things could always change and we could break lower. If we were to break this ascending support here, right in the low 2s, if we were to break this and test some recent lows, that wouldn't be a good sign. And one thing we've seen recently here is a golden cross. It has been pulling back since then, and now we're looking at this descending wedge pattern. This is typically bullish because it does usually break out to the upside and cause a subsequent run. So I'm watching for this pattern within the larger pattern, and I'm closely watching this support. If we do break it, that wouldn't be a good sign. But in this stage 1, what I'm also watching for is increasing volume. If we can see a breakout on increasing volume, this could be the beginning of the stage 2 or the uptrend, the bullish momentum. And I want to show you guys in the last cycle, back in 2020, before we went on the bull run, you'll see that late 2019 and into 2020, this kind of had an accumulation phase. It had its downtrend, then it started trading sideways, and it started trending up despite some lower highs over time. It kind of tightened up and then it broke out finally. And this was nearly 4 years ago now. This here was, looking back, a stage 1. And I do think looking back, this will turn out to be a stage 1 in our new bull cycle as well. But how do you guys feel about Nano Dimension? Do you think they're going to utilize this share buyback program? Do you think it's all just a PR move? I do think personally that they will utilize some of this share buyback program, and this should help the stock out a bit. Nano Dimension has a very decent balance sheet, plenty of money to buy some shares back, get them low and get them cheap while we're in this stage 1 bottoming out cycle. But let me know what you think about Nano Dimension right now. Are we going to be looking at some lower lows, or are we going to continue slowly trending upwards? Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.